The deliberations continue in the Rittenhouse trial, so we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there, some of the last-minute things that came up before the jury deliberation, some of the last-minute closing arguments that we missed on previous shows, and the allegation that there are just two holdouts out there that don't want to go because they're afraid of getting doxxed. It's going to be all that and more. In other news, Biden goes to New Hampshire to talk about his infrastructure bill, as the CBO says that it actually is going to cost some stuff. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on there. Pfizer tries to meme again and fails. But some intern leaves the comments on their tweet, so we'll talk about that and some other COVID stuff. And what else do we have going on here? And the Proud Boys leader is seeking release from a DC jail, alleging inhumane conditions. It is going to be all this and more. Let's go, Brandon. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and it's another packed show. In addition to all the stuff that we had left behind from yesterday's show, I should say, we've still got a bunch of stuff to go over, a bunch of stuff to talk about, and the Rittenhouse trial, it's drawing to a close. I mean, there's not a lot of new news right now off of this because, who can just sit there with a camera pointed at the jury door for 8-10 hours? They're going to do it. They're absolutely going to do it, but who can just sit there with a camera pointed at the jury door for 8, 10, 12 hours throughout a day? So we'll talk about what's going on there. We'll talk about this infrastructure bill. We'll talk about the monoclonal antibodies and the Pfizer memes and everything else over here on Contemporary. But before we get started, make sure you guys do go and check out turnsandpagesproductions.com, the new website that will be coming up. Your hub for all things Contemporary, Daily Ignoramus, Breakdown with Birkenhoff, Porch Boys, R-Rated Conservative, and Freckles and Fritz Show. It's going to be your hub for all of those great programs, plus another program to join as we get started here. So definitely go and check that out. We are getting, we're not getting closer to our goal. We're still kind of stalled out here. But as we continue to rise, we are continuing to try to get the message out for this goal. So we're looking to get up about $2,000 for payment to our wonderful web lady here, and even above and beyond until we get up to our $2,000. All of your donations, all of your Twitch subs, all of your lemons, if I can figure out the conversion rate, and all of your Buy Me a Coffees all go into this specific project here. So definitely go and check that out. We do have the GoFundMe available if you would like to donate in a more direct form. And if you'd like to be featured on the front page, just make sure that you keep yourself not anonymous off of this, but the anonymous ones are always welcome as well. Let me get that up in the link, and we're going to get started here in just a second. Go ahead and check us out over there, GoFundMe.com, and help us out and support independent journalism. All right, let's look in at our finance for the morning here. I know I'm running a little bit behind, so it's probably going to be restarted. Yep, it's restarted. But the Dow did spend its day about 52 points up throughout the day yesterday. So it looks like it's trying to rise. It's struggling to rise. And some things that we're going to see are going to help it continue to struggle to rise as we go. One thing that's actually going to, I think, help it a lot, and I don't know that we've seen a lot of this in a lot of the finance that we've talked about so far, is it looks like gas might be on the downswing again, which is surprising because it's getting cold and the demand for gas is being met with the demand for heating oils. But I swear, I was in Janesville yesterday, and the Woodmans in Janesville has a gas station involved. All the Woodmans have a gas station involved with them. And the Woodmans, and I didn't check and see any other gas stations, but the Woodmans dropped below $3 yesterday. $2.99 at the Woodmans. I haven't seen that since September. So I don't know if it's the Senate Democrats got in there and got into Biden's head and said, hey, If you don't tap the emergency reserves, we're going to lose. I mean, there's a great big fucking pipeline out there that can help get some stuff moving back across here. Here's the thing with me, and I know we'll talk about this with when we talk about the infrastructure bill. While I would like to see the policies of Biden come to their fruition with gas hit $3, $4, $5, $6 a gallon in normal places, not just various villages in California where it hits $8 a gallon, but in normal places where we hit $4, $5, $6 a gallon. I'd love to see that come to fruition so everybody can know what these policies will actually do so they'll stop fucking voting for them. But I also don't want to suffer myself, and I don't want the American people to suffer either. So anything that they can do, I will root for Democrats if they will do something intelligent like this. I know I'm a bad conservative for saying that, but if they'll do something intelligent and bring some of this down, fine. That's fine with me. Stop the suffering. Stop punishing people for voting for Trump, because that's really what it feels like you're doing sometimes. But that's what we're seeing up off the Dow. Looking at your Bitcoin is at, well, I did this one last night. Let's get a refresh on this. Oh, it came up overnight here. Your Bitcoin was at 59,000 last night. It is now at 60,319 US dollars and 80 US cents. A little bit of a rise overnight after another tumultuous day where it dropped back in and out. So if it come back to hit where it was at its record here not that long ago, just a few days ago, we'll see what happens with that. But, you know, there are people out there that also saw the record and said, hey, I'm going to cash out. And that's probably leading to some of the drop. I am just trying to be famous. Looking at your industrials, copper took a turn down. Almost all of your all of your copper plays, even aluminum copper fin radiators, dropped overnight here. Steel is continuing to be on the rise with BX steel down, but light iron, number one steel, cast iron, rotors, complete cars, shreddable steel all up. Stainless steel is continuing to go down. On aluminum is mixed with siding down, aluminum copper fin radiator down, regular radiators up, cans are down, sheet aluminum is down, rims are down. Your other plays, copper electric motors are down, ballasts are up, lead is up, batteries are coming back up now. All of your catalytic converters continue to rise. Compressors are up, alternators are down, carbide is down, and hard drives are up. A little bit of stuff to see where we're coming with both the chip shortage and the cars starting to get built. All right, let's see what IBD has to say. From IBD, Dow Futures. Market rally strong as Tesla, Rivian run, but watch for this. 3 stocks in buy zones. From Ed Carson. Dow Jones Futures were a little changed Wednesday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures, with lows in target, earnings in focus. The stock market rally had a solid session Tuesday, with the S&P 500 Index and NASDAQ Composite just below recent all-time highs. EV stocks continue to be the market rally. Hot rods, Rivian and Lucid Motors continue to lead the way, but Tesla rebounded. XPeng and Li Auto are actionable now. Chip makers and software stocks continue to do well. Meanwhile, retailers are acting well, with HD stock and Lowe's.com clearing 3-week tight patterns, while Target moved higher in a buy zone. Home Depot topped earnings views Tuesday morning. Yeah, it's getting to be that time where people are starting to realize that, oh, honey, it's getting colder in here. Can we do something with insulation? Why is that window leaking? It's getting to be that time of year, so the Home Depot, of course, is going to be up, and people are starting to see the projects that they're going to be doing while they're locked in the house for the winter and not really able to go out to the parks, to the campgrounds, to the water park, the places like that. Home Depot rival Lowe's topped consensus early Wednesday, along with discount giant Target. Meanwhile, President Biden said Tuesday he will announce a decision on his Federal Reserve Chairman pick in about 4 days. That suggests a weekend announcement, but giving financial markets time to mull it over. Most analysts see Biden either nominating Fed Chief Jerome Powell for a second term or choosing Fed Governor Lael Brainerd. Tesla is on the IBD leaderboard and the IBD 50. On your futures, Dow futures fell slightly versus fair value. S&P 500 futures edged lower, and NASDAQ 100 futures rose about 0.1%. Crude oil futures fell less than 1%. Copper futures lost 1%. Remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So that's what we're seeing coming off the market. So a little bit of a slower day as far as markets go here, but still some moving, some shaking, and we'll see what's going on with that and what happens with the retails as they go. Looking in at Market Watch. Never mind, we have reached our article limit, and your wonderful host forgot to archive. Moving on. All right, let's talk Rittenhouse, because we haven't talked that to death for 15 days. Let's see what it is that they have to say here, starting with the New York Post. Kyle Rittenhouse case, jury set to begin deliberations on potential prison times, from Lee Brown. Misleading, of course, because there may be an acquittal off of this, but hey, this got the leftoids to come back and read the New York Post, after saying it was evil for the Hunter laptop story. Reading in, jurors are set to begin deliberations at Kenosha gunman Kyle Rittenhouse's murder trial on Tuesday, deciding if the teen either walks or potentially gets as much as mandatory life sentence. The 12-person jury will get to decide on 5 felony charges, with sentences ranging from 12.5 years behind bars to life, with 2 also punishable by up to 60 years. During closing arguments Monday, persecutors called Rittenhouse, who was only 17 at the time, a wannabe soldier who walked off like a hero in a Western after killing 2 men and wounding a third. Rittenhouse's defense has insisted that he only had a semi-automatic rifle to protect himself while helping others, and only used deadly force when attacked by a crazed person and then being chased by a mob. Early in the trial, Judge Schrader dismissed a charge of failure to comply with an emergency order for being out in Kenosha in defiance of a curfew over ongoing riots. The minor offense only faced a fine of up to $200. On Monday, Schrader then dismissed misdemeanor charges against Rittenhouse, now 18, for illegally possessing an AR-15 style rifle he used in the shootings. And the iconic Binger photo, in which, if that does go off, and I mean there's no flag to say that the chamber is clear. It looks like the chamber is closed from here. There's no flag in the end of the barrel to say that the gun has been checked by the bailiff and safe. Thank you, Midget B, for pointing that out last night on the Porch Boys, by the way. That there's no, because usually when it comes into the courtroom, it's flagged because it was inspected over and over and over again. Kind of does make you wonder if this was, if somebody was trying to set up an Alec Baldwin kind of thing for this. But yeah, that chamber is closed. All 5 remaining charges carry the aggravating factor of use of a dangerous weapon. The provision can add up to 5 years to each sentence. Jurors will still debate the following 5 felony charges. First-degree reckless homicide. First-degree recklessly endangering safety. First-degree recklessly endangering safety. So, on 2 different people, McGinnis and Jump Kick Man, who we'll talk about in just a second. First-degree intentional homicide. And attempted first-degree intentional homicide. The jury has also been given the option of considering second-degree attempted intentional homicide and first-degree reckless endangerment charges. The possible punishment for attempted second-degree intentional is 30 years. Attempted first-degree reckless is punishable by up to 12.5 years. There again, those are the lesser charges they're putting up here with the shit show that they put out for prosecution from the state of Wisconsin. Are you fucking serious? Those are not the charges that should have been up there. If you wanted to win by any means necessary, state of Wisconsin, second and third manslaughter, that's what should have been up there. That's what you had a chance for. And even that is a lofty chance anyway, given everything that we saw come out. Everything we've seen over the past year, and then everything that came out. Some of which for the first time during this trial. But it's on 12. And we'll see what happens with that. Reading in from NBC News, piece of theater. Legal experts weigh in on the Kyle Rittenhouse's seating jurors deciding his fate by lottery. So this is interesting, and this was brought to my attention when I got to work yesterday. I didn't realize that they did this, but we knew that there were supposed to be 20 jurors initially. 2 of them got dismissed. One of them I want to hang out with. But 2 of them got dismissed right away. So there were 6 alternates in there. And at the end of all the arguments, because they didn't want anybody to know who was going to be a juror and who was going to be an alternate, they put all the juror numbers into a great big barrel, like a lottery style, and they were supposed to pick out the 12 who were going to go and deliberate, dismissing the other 6. But they had Rittenhouse do the picking. The person who was going to be... He was going to pick the 12 people who decided their fate. And honestly, I'm kind of with NBC on this. I think this was a little bit of political theater. This was a little bit of courtroom theater to try and raise the view count of this. From David K. Lee, Kyle Rittenhouse could spend the next several decades of his life behind bars or soon walk free from a Wisconsin courthouse. And pieces of paper he grabbed at random with his right hand will have played a major role in the life-turning outcome. In an interesting piece of theater in his high-profile trial, Rittenhouse was directed to blindly pick 7 women and 5 men who will decide whether he is criminally responsible for killing 2 men during protests last year over the police shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man in Kenosha. 18 prospective jurors sat through 2 weeks of testimony and arguments before Rittenhouse was told to pick 6 jurors out of a tumbler. The 6 numbers corresponded to jurors who were then stricken from the panel, resulting in the 12 who were sent to deliberation. Okay, so he picked the ones that went away, essentially. Wisconsin courts regularly seat more jurors than necessary before extras are randomly struck at the end of trials to get down to 12 for deliberations, lawyers said on Tuesday. John P. Gross, the director of the University of Wisconsin-Madison's Public Defender Project, said he has seen only judges do the picking, but he didn't object to Rittenhouse having the heavy hand of selection. It's completely random, and whoever is picking, Gross said. It was an interesting piece of theater, having the judge inviting the defendant to make the draw. Jan Main, who teaches law at University of Wisconsin-Madison, said he was jarred by the judges having Rittenhouse handle the lottery. It has always been the courtroom clerk who does the draw in his experience, he said. I know it's a random selection, but I have some concerns about it, Main said. To me, from the optics side, it doesn't make sense. I don't think it was a good idea. Michael D. Sichny, who practices criminal law in Kenosha, said he has seen judges or bailiffs doing the selection, but he had no issue with Rittenhouse's conducting Tuesday's drawing. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter who did it, because it's random. It does just seem really theatrical to me, though. You decide the fate. Your own fate, and leave it up to chance. It was good for the cameras, and it'll be good for the mistrial when they come back to try to demand it. If it does come back, not in the defense's favor. But we will see what happens with that. So this story's been going around, and I have, because I don't know if he's going to delete this or not. He really should. But Will Fight retweeted this out as a screenshot. And I don't know how much I trust this. And Posobiec is usually really good. Let me put that out there before I say what I'm about to say. Posobiec is usually pretty good at getting the information and making sure it's corroborated. But this, I don't know how this could be corroborated at this point. Because a big part of the situation here is that this jury is supposed to be sequestered and not have access to the outside world. Now, this may be different because of COVID, because they did go home last night. So I have no idea. Like, I am running blind out of this right now. I have no idea what's actually going on with this. Jack Posobiec tweets out 2 jurors holding this decision up, outright citing backlash per U.S. Marshal in Kenosha. More, worried about media leaking their names, what will happen to their families, jobs, etc., including doxing threats from anarchist groups. Which, as was correctly pointed out in the Discord when I dropped this into the Discord by Midget B, anarchist groups, anarchists so-called, that are helping the state convict. That doesn't seem to make sense for me for anything. But with the fact that they're going home, and I realized this morning, I do find this a little bit more believable, that they're coming out here and they're expressing concerns to family members, who are probably the ones that are calling the U.S. Marshals. If this is the case, that means that there are already 10 votes of acquittal, and they're just trying to get the other 2 on board, worrying about the fact that they might get doxxed, their houses might get burned, and they might get protested. So I'm interested in this, and this, I mean, if this is true, this is a mistrial. But if it winds up being a hung jury, they might not pursue that, and we'll talk about that. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know the reality of this. I really don't. I know that the media leaked out the names of all the jurors after the Chauvin verdict. They were right there. The media knew all the people there, and they had them out there. Plus, even when we were talking about the jury selection, there was enough information sent out from the media of, okay, this person does this, lives in this general region. Enough information out there that we could have reasonably figured out who these people were. But we knew pretty quickly who the BLM guy was in the jury. We knew pretty quickly who that guy was. So, they're right to be. They're right to be worried. But it shouldn't affect justice. All right, from WISN 12, ABC out of Milwaukee. Rittenhouse trial, jurors request to resume deliberations on Wednesday morning. Is this video only? Apparently this is video only. All right.
That you wish to break for the evening, which is certainly your prerogative. You're in charge at this particular point. And I also understand that I was told that I'm not clear on whether you decided you wanted to come back at 9 or if that was conveyed to you that that's what we wanted. But I'm going to take a vote just to make sure. I'm going to want to report at 9. Okay. That makes it easy. And so we're going to break for the evening. Now, you're in deliberation, and the rules are the same as they were before, with the additional provision that you can't talk with anybody about the case, even if all 12 of you, by happenstance, end up at the same place, a bowling alley or a restaurant or something. You're not allowed to talk about the case, even with all 12. And when you get here in the morning, if you come a little early or somebody's late, and there are 11 of you or 10 of you or whatever, you can't talk about the case. The only way you can talk about the case, any aspect of the case, is when all 12 of you are together in the jury room. So please keep that in mind. Don't read, watch, or listen to any account of the trial. No talking with anybody who's not involved in the trial. Any question, anybody? All right, thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
So, yep, they're going home. And I love that idea, too. Even if all 12 of you happen to be in the same bowling alley, you can't talk about the case anymore outside of this. Sequestration. Seriously, sequestration. Judge Schrader reminded the jurors they cannot talk about the Rittenhouse case unless all 12 of them are in the jury room. So, that's what we see off of that. From Yahoo News, speaking of mistrial, coming to Yahoo News via the Chicago Tribune, Kyle Rittenhouse defense team seeks mistrial claiming prosecutorial misconduct. From Stacy St. Clair and Christy Gutkowski of the Chicago Tribune. As Rittenhouse's jury officially began its deliberations Tuesday, a piece of unfinished business still hung over the case. The defense filed a motion ahead of Monday's closing arguments asking for a mistrial based on prosecutorial misconduct. The request will be moot if the jury, which begins deliberation at 9:15 a.m. local time, acquits Rittenhouse of the 5 felony charges against him, so it appears judge will not address the issue until after the deliberations. 18 jurors listened to the case, though only 12 have been tapped to reach a verdict. Before deliberations began, Rittenhouse on Tuesday pulled 6 numbers from an old-fashioned lottery tumbler that is original to the 100-year courtroom. These 6 people were designated as alternates. The deliberating panel includes 7 women and 5 men. The jurors did not identify themselves by race, but the jury appears to be predominantly white. Thank you, Chicago Tribune. The mistrial motion rehashes the issue that arose last week when the judge berated an assistant district attorney for ignoring a pretrial order that barred the jury from hearing certain evidence for infringing on Rittenhouse's right to remain silent upon his arrest. It also levels a new accusation at the prosecutors, accusing them of not properly sharing a piece of video evidence. There's been no mention of the defense motion in court since it was filed. Rittenhouse, then 17, shot Rosenbaum, Huber, and wounded Grosskreutz while ostensibly guarding a used car lot and providing first aid services amid Kenosha's August 2020 unrest surrounding the shooting of Jacob Blake, a black man, by a white Kenosha police officer. Rittenhouse has pleaded not guilty, saying he acted in self-defense. In its 7-page motion for mistrial, the defense accused the prosecution of providing drone recording at a lower resolution than the one the state possesses and showed the jury. The state has argued that the drone recording, which was received after the trial had begun, is key to proving Rittenhouse provoked the shooting by first pointing his gun at a bystander. Persecutors say Rosenbaum chased Rittenhouse across a used car lot before the teen turned and shot him 4 times with an AR-15 style rifle. The video footage has been the center of the case. The defense motion states the failure to provide the same quality footage in this particular case is intentional and clearly prejudices the defendant. The first issue raised in the defense's mistrial motion concerns a moment during Rittenhouse's testimony last week when ADA Thomas Binger referenced the teen's decision not to walk to the police after being arrested. Or not to talk to, rather, the police after being arrested, considering one of the accused's most important protections, defendants cannot be questioned on the choice to remain silent at any point in their criminal case. And this is the thing, too. I mean, there's so many opportunities for mistrial unless there is an acquittal. There is the violation of the Fifth Amendment, self-incrimination. There is that involved in this. There is the badgering of the witness. That's available. There is the evidentiary. Although, honestly, that's going to be questionable to me. And there, of course, is the fact that Grosskreutz admitted the fact that he pointed his gun at Kyle Rittenhouse. But this trial was all over the place. There is enough reasonable doubt on this that there is no reason to convict on this with enough reasonable doubt that's there, and there is enough. But as I've mentioned a few times off of this, one of the big things that worries me about this is the fact that we've come into the trial by social media aspect of our lives. And people like Rittenhouse, people like Chauvin, people like Duke Lacrosse Dude, they're all guilty until proven innocent in our court system because of trial by social media. And my big fear right now is that the jurors are sitting in the deliberation room, which they will be in an hour and 4 minutes. They're sitting in the deliberation room under the impression that it was on the defense to prove the innocence, not the other way around. You're presumed innocent. That is one of the most important cornerstones of our judicial system. And I feel it's going away in a hurry. But that's what we see. From the Daily Mail, talking about some of the protests outside. BLM protesters scream at Rittenhouse supporters as tensions flare on courthouse steps. Journalists hire armed guards, and police try to ease anxiety as jury deliberations continue. From Jennifer Smith, chief reporter, and Laura Collins, chief investigative reporter in Kenosha, Wisconsin for DailyMail.com. With the jury quietly tucked away deliberating Rittenhouse's case, decorum outside the Wisconsin courthouse dissolved into angry protests on Tuesday with the arrival of BLM activists and Second Amendment enthusiasts. And I want to point something out here. First off, they did a good job of panning into the steps to make the crowd look a lot fuller than it was. Now, I went down there on Monday, and unless there was a 300% increase in 2 days, in a day, which there might have been in 24 hours. There absolutely might have been a 100% increase at this point. Unless there was that 100% increase, This is just 12 people with maybe a few more gun enthusiasts out there and nothing else going on. And this was, I mean, the courthouse steps are not that big in Kenosha. It may be 100 people out there. And then the question comes as to whether or not they spilled over into where the journalists are over in Memorial Park. The jury has now begun deliberating whether or not to convict the teenage gunman whose case has divided the nation. Rittenhouse, now 18, was 17 when he shot dead 2 white BLM protesters at a riot in Kenosha last August and injured a third. His lawyers say he was a scared boy acting in self-defense, eager to protect the town as it fell under siege from an angry mob. Persecutors tried to paint him as a bloodthirsty vigilante and an embodiment of the systemic racism his victims were protesting against. The jury began discussions this morning after a dramatic 2-week trial. As their hushed deliberations began away from public view, protesters descended on the courthouse. There's the one photo of the arguments going through here. A supporter of Rittenhouse argues with a Black Lives Matter supporter in front of the Kenosha County Courthouse while the jury deliberates. An armed security guard wearing riot gear was among those outside. The guard told Daily Mail he had been hired by a TV station to provide security for journalists who had been threatened recently. Shoot your local pedophile. I bet you that one's a plant. On the steps of the courthouse, protesters chanted in each other's faces in front of Jacob Blake's uncle. It was Blake's death by cop that was the reason. Well, okay, we need to back this one back up because Blake is still alive. That was the reason for the protests on August 20th that attracted Rittenhouse to Kenosha. Mark and Patricia McCloskey, the Missouri couple who thwarted BLM protesters away from their property last year by toting their guns, were there again to show Rittenhouse their support. Oh, that's probably not a good sign. The Sheriff's Department and Police Department issued a statement to try to quell the town's anxiety, saying there were no plans yet for road closures, curfews, or any other kind of restriction, but that safety remained the priority. 500 National Guardsmen remain on standby near Kenosha, ready to step in if the situation escalates. The Kenosha County Sheriff's Department and Kenosha Police Department understand and recognize the anxiety surrounding the Rittenhouse trial. There are many questions being asked from our community as well as media outlets. Our departments have worked together and made coordinated efforts over the last year to improve response capabilities at large-scale events. There's, two different sides of this. The convict killer Kyle that was out there when I was there, and then self-defense is not a crime. BLM and Antifa are here to intimidate. And that's what we see coming out of that. I mean, panning out, you can see it. I mean, this really isn't that big of a demonstration. But they like to pan in and get in there so it looks like it's more fiery than it is. The best thing that could happen right now, and I want to remind everybody, that the debt ceiling is up on December 3rd. The riots in Kenosha is the best thing that could happen for the federal government right now. Another slew of riots, both in Kenosha and around the country. That is the best thing that could happen for the government right now because all the news will be focused on that, including probably this because it's my hometown. When they quietly try to hustle a new debt ceiling in around everybody else. So that's what we see after that. From the Daily Wire, activist uncle of Jacob Blake speaks out as jury deliberates in Rittenhouse case. From Charlotte Pence Bond. The Daily Wire spoke with Jacob Blake's activist uncle, Justin Blake, outside the courthouse on Wednesday, in Kenosha, on Tuesday. Blake has been protesting outside the courthouse along with a small group of BLM activists who are chanting slogans as the jury begins deliberation of the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse. As the Daily Wire reported, Jacob Blake was the man shot and wounded by police while in possession of a knife and resisting arrest in August of 2020, the event which precipitated widespread rioting in Kenosha, during which Rittenhouse shot 3 men. The Daily Wire asked Justin Blake why he was there, and he said, "Because when you come full circle with this thing, it has to do with Jacob Blake. These people wouldn't have been out in the street without seeing my nephew get shot in the back 7 times in front of his children while reaching for a knife. It brought a tremendous amount of people to the streets. We have to focus on the real issues here," Blake said, claiming that Rittenhouse murdered 2 men he shot and killed during the rioting. "He had no right lawfully to carry the gun, although the judge says he did. He's a racist. He's trying to let this young man know. We ask people to continue to watch the video," he added. Blake said he wants to see Rittenhouse go to jail, noting that Rittenhouse was white. Oh, no, that's not what it says. Noting that Rittenhouse was a kid who entered into an adult's world, he claimed Rittenhouse was bailed out by Proud Boys, skinheads, and Ku Klux Klan. When asked about rioters and looters who set things on fire in Kenosha last year, Blake said he told people that if they were burning things at the riots, "You're not doing it for little fucking Jake. Fuck you. Dude, are you serious? He just little Jake. He's 27. Blake criticized Schrader, specifically due to the judge's ringtone, "God Bless the USA," which Blake said was Trump's theme song, but also had a choice word for President Biden, saying, "President Biden has failed us. We've heard nothing from him. We will never, in my life, vote for another Democrat again. We helped flip the state blue. What did we get? What African Americans always get. Nothing," he said, adding that now may be the time to begin thinking about a third party. On Monday, Schrader dismissed the jury for the night after telling them they have an obligation to render a fair verdict, not based on his presumed opinion, news media, or comments from President Biden or his predecessor Trump, the Daily Wire reported. So, yep, he's out there trying to stoke the flames and get shit going out of here. And like I said, that's one of the big things is our federal government right now could go for a riot. They could go for one. I hope that it doesn't happen. But I know it's going to. Alright, some leftovers from the closing arguments here. I got a video clip of the ADA, James Krause, talking about bringing a gun to a fist fight. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like.
And that he had to exhaust all methods. Clearly, if there is provocation, he's guilty. But even outside of provocation, why do you get to immediately just start shooting? As Mr. Binger said, he brought a gun to a fist fight. And he was too cowardly to use his own fist to fight his way out. He has to start shooting. And let's just say, theoretically, that we think, that the 12 of you think that it is reasonable to have used force, deadly force in that situation. Shoots once, takes out his hip, and that he had to exhaust all methods.
And there's one of the first ones off there. Love how he says nothing about them chasing him with weapons, including a pistol, and attempting to use them on him. Which I replied off of that, says, he can't say that. That would be devastating to the narrative. But the other side of it, Big Green Eyes says, he thought that he was big and bad because of that gun. Without it, well, not so tough. Yeah, he would have been dead, and there would have been parades and celebrations off of it. And that one got appropriately ratioed. as it should have been, because it was a horrible take. Here's an interesting one here. This comes from Dan O'Donnell, who I usually listen to on the way to work after the show here, just so I get some pulse on local news and what's going on with this. I mean, it's a short drive to work, but I'll listen to it on the way because, it's there. The break that happens on their morning show on WISN is coming in, and then they go to a national news break after that. It's happening right about the time I get to work. But Dan was teasing right before I got to work that he was going to talk about this story. And thank you, Katie Zed, for finding this to where I can talk about this here, because now I've got the transcript. Now I can talk about what we're seeing off of this here. But Dan O'Donnell from 1130 WISN reveals to us as much detail as he can about Jump Kick Man. The disturbing story of the Rittenhouse case's mysterious Jump Kick Man. Also, world's worst Mega Man villain. From Dan O'Donnell. The enduring mystery of the Kyle Rittenhouse criminal trial, to which went a jury Tuesday, has been the identity of Jump Kick Man. As Rittenhouse ran away from a crowd of people, he testified that one of the pursuers hit him in the head with a skateboard. When Rittenhouse fell to the ground, Jump Kick Man flew through the air and stomped on his head. Rittenhouse fired 2 shots at Jump Kick Man, but missed. Almost immediately, the man who struck Rittenhouse with the skateboard, Anthony Hoover, hit him with the skateboard again, and Rittenhouse fired a single round, killing Hoover. The third man, Gage Grosskreutz, saw this and approached Rittenhouse with his hands up. However, when Rittenhouse looked down for a split second, Grosskreutz pulled out a handgun and pointed at Rittenhouse's head. Rittenhouse fired a single shot, striking Grosskreutz in the arm. I can already hear Binger and the big guy. "Oh, that's an objection, because he didn't point it at his head." Jump Kick Man, whose attack on Rittenhouse and Rittenhouse's subsequent response arguably led to both Hoover and Grosskreitz's actions, and Rittenhouse's response to them, has never been identified until now. The Dan O'Donnell Show can report exclusively that Jump Kick Man is a 40-year-old black male from Kenosha with an extensive criminal history who, at the time of the Rittenhouse shootings, on probation following a conviction for domestic violence battery, he faced a maximum sentence of 9 months in jail, but less than 2 months before he kicked Rittenhouse, he accepted a plea deal that netted him 12 months probation. The following year, he violated terms of his probation and was sentenced to 7 months in jail. Had Jump Kick Man been sentenced to even 2 months instead of probation, he would not have been in Kenosha the night of the shootings. His kick, which prompted Rittenhouse to fire 2 shots at him, may well have provoked Hoover to strike Rittenhouse with his skateboard a second time, causing Rittenhouse to shoot and kill him. That in turn prompted Grosskreutz to advance on Rittenhouse and draw his handgun on him, which caused Rittenhouse to shoot him. Jump Kick Man's actions likely set these events in motion, and thus had he not been on the streets of Kenosha that night, it is entirely possible that Hoover and Grosskreutz would not have been shot. Alright. And, of course, the next line here. The Dan O'Donnell Show is not naming Jump Kick Man, as he's not been criminally charged in connection with the Rittenhouse case. Sources indicate that he contacted persecutors and offered to testify, but in exchange requested immunity from an ongoing drunk driving and domestic abuse case, to which he was charged in June. Persecutors declined his offer and chose not to call him as a witness in the Rittenhouse case. Alright, I have a few problems with this. Now, first and foremost, why bring this out if you can't name the person? That it can't be corroborated. We choose not to because an ongoing criminal case that goes along with this. Okay, then why put this article out? Because all we're doing right now is hearing that right-wing media is making bullshit up. And without a corroboration, I can't actually argue against that. And yes, the Dan O'Donnell Show is definitely right-wing media. This was a tease. This was a draw to get people coming in and watching the Dan O'Donnell Show. Now, I mean, we've seen what Jump Kick Man looks like off of this, and he's definitely a tall, lanky black man wearing a mask. So I don't know where they were able to get this off this, other than finding out that he offered to make the testimony for this. But even there, I'm not even sure enough, because there's no identifying feature to say that the person who offered to testify to get immunity was the same as Jump Kick Man. Just somebody who looked and saw an opportunity and said, yeah, that was me. Hey, let me testify here. And let me get some immunity from this kind of stuff. So, that's what they've laid out. You decide. You decide whether this is accurate or not. I can't decide whether this is accurate or not. I'm leaning to inaccurate, but only ever so slightly. I'm pretty well 50-50. And the last one, before we talk about something other than Rittenhouse, let's talk about Cori Bush. In the midst of all this, from archive.today of the St. Louis Dispatch, Representative Cori Bush says white supremacists shot at Ferguson protesters, but chief not aware of the incident. From Jack Suntrup. U.S. Rep. Cori Bush said in a tweet on Monday that white supremacists hid behind a hill and shot at protesters in Ferguson following the 2014 killing of Michael Brown Jr. there. Reaction to the statement on social media was swift and angry, with many accusing the Congresswoman of lying. You know, there's a reason that the book in the Fallout universe that improves your speech stat is called Lying Congressional Style. As for more information about incidents of white supremacists shooting at protesters, a spokesperson for the Bush campaign issued this statement Monday night. While on the front lines of the Ferguson uprising, Congresswoman Bush and other activists were shot at by white supremacist vigilantes. The question we need to ask is why white supremacists feel empowered to open carry rifles, incite violence, and put black lives at risk across the country. Ferguson Police Chief Frank McCullough Jr. said Monday that he didn't know that there was any record of such an incident. Not that I'm aware of, he said, adding that he wasn't aware of any incidents that the tweet might be referencing. McCall was named as police chief in July prior to joining Ferguson Police Department. He was a veteran officer and the chief at the Berkeley Police Department. So the reason this ties in, and of course, I mean, I'm not really surprised that the St. Louis Dispatch didn't include this into this, because it's kind of devastating to the argument off of this, is Cori Bush was talking about this, to tie this back into the fact that the Rittenhouse verdict. If Kyle Rittenhouse goes free, then that's going to mean that all these white supremacists can start shooting at Black Lives Matter protesters like they did in Ferguson. I was there, man. So, once again, the chief says he has no record of it happening. He never said it didn't happen, but he says he has no record of it happening. There's the allegation. You decide. All right, let's shift gears here. Let's move on. Let's talk about some other stuff. From the Daily Mail, House Republicans release whistleblower docs that reveal FBI used counterterrorism tactics at behest of Woke National School Board to investigate parents complaining about CRT and accuse AG Merrick Garland of lying to Congress. From Morgan Phillips, politics reporter for DailyMail.com. The FBI has created a tag for threats against teachers and school administrators and is tracking such investigations on a national level. An FBI whistleblower provided an email dated October 20th to House Republicans sent on behalf of the Counterterrorism Division and the Criminal Division. The email referenced AG Merrick Garland's October 4th directive to the FBI to ramp up the involvement in school boards, threats, and notified agents of a new tag, EDU officials, to assign any threats against school administrators, board members, staff, or teachers to determine the scope of the problem on a national level and provide a comprehensive analysis of the threat picture. This disclosure provides specific evidence that the federal law enforcement operationalized counterterrorism tools at the behest of a left-wing special interest group against concerned parents, House Republicans claimed in a letter to Garland. The email directed agents to analyze the motivations behind the criminal activity and to identify whether there are potential federal violations that could be investigated and charged. Here's the letter. On October 4th, 2021, the AG forwarded a memorandum addressing a spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. The memorandum directed each United States attorney, in coordination with the FBI, to convene meetings with the federal, state, and local, tribal, and territorial leaders in each federal judicial district within 30 days of the issuance of the memorandum. We share an obligation to ensure all individuals are able to do their jobs without threats of violence or fear for their safety. This can only be accomplished with effective coordination internally between relevant divisions and through effective coordination and engagement with our law enforcement partners and U.S. attorney offices. As a result, the Counterterrorism and Criminal Divisions created a threat tag. EDU officials to track instances of related threats, we ask that your offices apply the threat tag to investigations and assessments of threats specifically directed against school board administrators, board members, teachers, and staff. The purpose of the threat tag is to help scope the threat on a national level and provide an opportunity for a comprehensive analysis of the threat picture. For effective engagement with law enforcement partners at all levels, when evaluating potential threats, we ask that you attempt to identify the following. A. Is there a federal nexus? B. Are there potential federal violations that can be investigated and charged? C. What's the motivation behind the criminal activity? We appreciate your attention to this matter and welcome any engagement to identify trends, strategies, and best practices to accomplish discouraging, identifying, and prosecuting those who use violence, threats of violence, and other forms of intimidation and harassment pertaining to this threat. On behalf of AD Timothy R. Langen, Jr., Counterterrorism Division, AD Calvin A. Shevers, Criminal Division, respectfully, Carlton Peoples, A. Deputy Assistant Director, Criminal Investigative Division. And it's an unclassified letter, too. Republicans say the FBI has inserted itself into what would usually be a local issue, which is what I just said, or what I said at the time, rather, due to its political nature, in an effort to silence parents who disagree with schools' progressive policies. Such an argument was made by Republican Glenn Youngkin, who emerged victorious in Virginia's race for governor. Garland, in early October, set up a task force comprised of the FBI, the National Security Division, the Criminal Division, the Civil Rights Division, and others to tackle threats against school staff. Republicans said that Garland's inclusion of the National Security Division proved that he was targeting parents as domestic terrorists. Reading from the Congress of the United States House of Representatives Committee on the Judiciary. Dear Attorney General Garland, last month, during your testimony before the Judiciary Committee, you testified that the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation were not using federal counterterrorism tools to target concerned parents at local school board meetings. We are now in receipt of a protected disclosure from a department whistleblower showing the FBI's Counterterrorism Division is compiling and categorizing threat assessments related to parents, including document directing FBI personnel to use a specific threat tag to track potential investigations. This new information calls into question the accuracy and completeness of your sworn testimony. On October 21st, 2021, you testified that the department and its components were not using counterterrorism statutes and resources to target concerned parents at school board meetings. Specifically, you testified that you could not imagine any circumstance in which the Patriot Act would be used in circumstances of parents complaining about their children, nor a circumstance where they would be labeled as domestic terrorists. You also testified, I do not think that parents getting angry at school boards for whatever reason constitute domestic terrorism. It's not even a close question. Later in the hearing, however, you were questioned about the department's press release touting the inclusion of the National Security Division, the department of component responsible for enforcing federal terrorism laws, including the Patriot Act, in a task force you created to address rising criminal conduct directed toward school personnel. You appeared surprised to learn that the National Security Division's involvement in the task force, but you avoided a direct answer to the question and offered no clarification or explanation for the National Security Division's role in the task force. The 3-page letter goes on to explain how they went on and they received the documentation for it, which we just read, and is signed by Jim Jordan, ranking member. So, this is big. This is huge. on something that should have been a local issue to begin with. None of this should have been coming up on a federal level, except they are going against the direct agenda of the Biden admin. So this is craziness to me, the fact that this is out there, and they're trying to come back out and cover this up. And this is campaign ads for Republicans coming up in the midterms, which effectively start in a little bit over a month. But that's what we'll see coming off of that. Let's grab one from the Blaze. Dems claimed Biden bill won't cost anything. CBO says otherwise, but Biden admin says to ignore it anyway. From Chris Enlow. President Biden and top Democrats selling the president's agenda promised for weeks that Biden's multi-trillion-dollar Build Back Better social spending bill would be fully financed. Now Democrats are preparing themselves for a score from the nonpartisan CBO that puts the lie to those claims. Top Democrats, including Biden, said Americans should not worry about the eye-popping price tag of the legislation. Why worry, they claimed, when the bill costs nothing? Aside from being an obtuse argument that defied basic laws of mathematics, nuanced arguments of the position explained that tax hikes on the wealthy would offset the trillions of dollars of spending. Therefore, Democrats claimed the bill would not actually add to the deficit or national debt. Thank you, Fanning. These are not the numbers you're looking for. While the CBO has not officially scored the plan, CBO Director Philip Swagel said Monday that the bill, which now has a price tag of $1.85 trillion after lawmakers shaved off waste that Manchin refused to support, will not be fully financed. To help finalize the massive spending plan, Biden wants to empower the IRS to receive information from banks to allegedly catch tax evaders. First, lawmakers proposed that every bank account with an annual transactions exceeding $600 would be flagged by the IRS after pushback that was raised to $10,000 in annual transactions, which still means almost every bank account in the U.S. The Biden admin claimed routine salary deposits wouldn't count towards the limit. Bullshit! Not only that, but if you're making $20,000 in a year, let's just use the low number for that. Let's use $20,000. That's a significantly low number for annual salary. If you're making $20,000 in a year, in today's market, with gas being as outrageous as it is, unless you are living at home with mommy and daddy and not paying them any rent whatsoever, and you're just banking that money, every penny that you're putting in, if you're making $20,000 a year, is coming back out of that fucking bank account. I'm sorry. It's not a pretty picture to paint, but you're not doing any savings in this country, in this economy right now, if you're only making 20 grand a year. Which means that at a minimum, $10,000 is coming back out of that. So yeah, your salary won't count towards that $10,000. No, not at all. But what you are paying for, your bills, your rent, your electric bill, everything else, that's all coming right back up out of there. So don't give me that bullshit of, your salary doesn't count for that. Fuck you. However, the CBO is expected to say, when it releases its full assessment of the IRS proposal, that will yield far less revenue than what the White House was counting on to help pay for the bill. About $120 billion over a decade versus the $400 billion that the administration is counting on. The New York Times, a former newspaper, reported. The significance of the finding cannot be understated. Biden promised the bill would be fully paid for, but the nonpartisan budget office says that's not true, to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars at least. The Biden admin is already telling the public to ignore the CBO's assessment, claiming it's too conservative and The nonpartisan CBO is too conservative. It's only not... This is the to the left of Mao argument that we hear some of the conservative commentators come back out. And, I'll even admit I've used it. Anybody to the right of Mao is a right-wing extremist. The nonpartisan CBO, it's too conservative. Jesus. Fuck off. In this one case, I think we made a very strong empirical case for the CBO not having an accurate score. Ben Harris, Treasury's Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy, told The Times, the question is, would they rather go with CBO knowing CBO is wrong, or would they want to target the best information they could possibly have? The CBO is expected to publish its full score of the bill on Friday. Just don't listen to anybody who don't listen to anybody who says something other than what the Biden admin says. Wow. President Biden in Woodstock calls bill most significant infrastructure investment in 70 years. From Adam Sexton of WMUR9.
As $1.2 trillion in infrastructure spending begins to head out to the 50 states, President Joe Biden chose New Hampshire as his first stop to promote the benefits of this big bill, which span from road repair to clean drinking water to expanding broadband internet.
That 50 years from now, when historians write about this moment, I think they're going to talk about this was the beginning of the time where America recaptured the competition of the 21st century.
In addition to $1.1 billion for Granite State roads, $225 million is on its way to New Hampshire to replace or repair red-listed bridges, like the one the president visited in Woodstock, something even Biden skeptics say is a good idea.
Well, of course it is, and it should have been done by the state a long time ago.
Local Army veteran Guy Hoover appreciates the investment in infrastructure, but says it's not problem number one for him right now.
I'm suffering. I'm paying $4 a gallon for propane, which is $2 a gallon in most places. To heat my home, I'm on a fixed income. I'm on Social Security, and the way things are going right now, I'm going to have to go and get help to heat my home this winter.
The president nodded to those pressures on the economy and working families, contending this package will deliver some help.
The bipartisan bill is going to mobilize our ports and our airports and freight rail to make it easier for companies to get goods to market, reduce supply chain bottlenecks we're experiencing now.
As for the backdrop here, this bridge will be
It's funny. Oh, this bill is going to make it easier to get products to market, but by rail and by ship and the thing, man. Come on. It seems that your ports out of Florida aren't having that problem. Your East Coast roads aren't having that problem. Yes, okay, we have problems with West Coast roads, but there are also West Coast trucking restrictions and everything else that go along with that too. Repeal some of the laws, and you're going to have a lot better of a supply chain. Just stop having some of these laws, especially the emissions laws. Let this all get done on a local level. But see, we can't do that. But yes, he has to go off and look at this bridge. Look at the pretty bridge that we're going to go back and fix, man. Come on. That's what we see off of that. Let's keep going. Let's throw some music back up here. Joy Reid. Throw the music back up, and we're about to watch another video. Joy Reid fumes over Biden approval rating, calls Americans ungrateful. I guess they spent that whole $2,000. And then Win, the 17th, points out very well. So Joy Reid exposed Democrats' little secret. Free money means to buy approval ratings and votes. Probably hyperinflation costs more than $2,000. Let's listen. Oh, I guess they don't have the video off there. I thought that was video. Alright. No more video. Music back up. Joy Reid fumes over Biden approval rating, calls Americans ungrateful. I guess they spent that whole $2,000 from David Rutz. Far-left MSDNC host Joy Reid derided and mocked Americans Monday for not being sufficiently grateful to President Biden, snarking that they must have already spent their stimulus checks and aren't happy anymore. During a discussion with left-wing historian Michael Beschloss on the readout, Reid fumed over Biden's poor approval rating, with one ABC News survey listing it at 41%. I hate to really dwell on polls because they're ephemeral. At this point, in many of their presidencies, a lot of presidents face a crisis of public confidence, and Biden faces a massive ongoing COVID nightmare that is harming his numbers. His numbers are pretty low right now, she said. Sure, Beschloss said. There are also a lot of Americans who, despite having gotten the shots and checks, are still telling pollsters that he's accomplished nothing, or almost nothing, which I find amazing. I guess they spent the whole $2,000 and now they're not happy anymore, Reid said. Does this matter? Should we think about this in terms of these polling numbers? Beschloss, an open supporter of Biden, said that with the midterms a year away, there was still hope that the newly signed infrastructure law, as well as the sprawling nearly $2 trillion Build Back Better social policy package that still languishes in Congress, could help jumpstart the economy. Reid appeared to be referring to the stimulus checks that were sent out as part of the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. Biden signed into law this year, although they were $1,400, not $2,000. Biden's woes appear to be connected to continuing concerns over inflation and ongoing supply chain issues, which are leaving Americans financially strapped and worried heading into the holidays. But, I mean, Win is right. Win is absolutely right off of this. Do I follow this person? No, I do now. If you have a take that good, then hell yes, I'm going to follow you. Even if you are, I don't follow a lot of MAGA, but even if you are MAGA and you've got a take this good, you've earned the follow. Joy Reid exposed Dems' little secret. Free money means to buy approval rating and votes. No, we're totally not buying votes. What are you talking about? Hey, why aren't Americans more grateful? We bought your votes. What the fuck, man? Alright, let's keep going. From the Blaze. Psaki declares that Republicans oppose Biden's massive spending package because they're rooting for inflation. Okay, you've caught my attention. I'd love to hear you spin this. Her roots are showing too. She's not actually a redhead. Look at that. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has claimed that Republicans are opposing President Biden's spending proposal because they are rooting for inflation. Question: when Americans are seeing higher prices, are Republicans united against the bill to lower core costs on prescription drugs, healthcare, childcare, and elder care? A, they're rooting for inflation. Responding to Trip Gabriel, we're going to continue to have inflation and then interest rates will go up, said Senator Rick Scott of Florida, who heads the GOP Senate campaign arm. This is a goldmine for us, Mr. Scott said. She made the comments while retweeting a post that included quotes from GOP Senator Rick Scott of Florida, who is the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. You can see what's going to happen next. We're going to continue to have inflation, then interest rates will go up, Scott said, according to the Wall Street Journal. This is a gold mine for us. Democrats hope to ram through the massive spending proposal, which they claim would actually alleviate the nation's inflation problem. The best way to address inflation is to pass a bill that creates jobs, reduces bottlenecks, and is totally paid for by making sure the wealthy pay their fair share. That's just what we're doing with the Build Back Better Act, a tweet posted last week on the Senate Majority Leader Charles U. Schumer's official account reads. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has reported significant increases in the Consumer Price Index. The All Items Index rose 6.2% for the 12 months ending October, the largest 12-month increase since the period ending in November of 1990, BLS noted. The Energy Index rose 30% over the last 12 months, and the Food Index increased 5.3%. Psaki recently noted that the Biden admin believes that rising fuel prices bolster the argument for a shift towards clean energy. Look, our view is that the rise in gas prices over the long term makes an even stronger case for doubling down on our investment and our focus on clean energy options so that we are not relying on the fluctuations and OPEC. And I don't have any more information on this, and I'll circle back. Psaki said during a press briefing. So they're trying to tell you that spending $3 trillion between two bills is going to lower inflation. In a move that seems almost like desperation. I mean, a good move, don't get me wrong, but a move that almost seems like desperation. From Reuters, U.S. Republicans move to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. Midterm season has begun. From Reuters, Republicans in the House introduced legislation on Monday that would decriminalize marijuana at the federal level and eliminate legal hazards facing many cannabis-related businesses while regulating its use like alcohol. Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina, who is spearheading the legislative effort, described the bill as a compromise with less onerous regulations than measures proposed earlier by other lawmakers, including Democrats. The legislation's path in the Democrat-controlled House was uncertain. Mace, a first-term lawmaker, said the measure has 5 Republican co-sponsors. Adult use of cannabis is legal in 18 U.S. states and allowed medically in 36 states, but it remains illegal under federal law, which has deterred banks and other investors from involvement with companies that sell marijuana or related products. Yeah, this is mostly likely a bill to get shot down by Democrats to further hurt their chances in 2022, which is actually a possibility because big business, which a lot of that depends, especially big pharma, on marijuana remaining criminalized, does not want to see this pass. So, good idea, but it just seems political at this point. I don't think it's going to do anything. Let's talk about the commie fucking coup. Starting with this tweet out here from Pfizer. And, by the way, still, comments are on. Dude, somebody's getting fired over this one. Pfizer, get on board! With the airplane, and I mean, it's a photoshopped airplane, of course. It's shooped, as Mr. B would like to say. Know who's good at science? Scientists. Let's pop down to this, my comment off of this, so we can come back up to the top and just see how badly this one got ratioed. Appropriately, of course. My tweet, of course, my response saying, how much did the DNC pay you to say this? I'm just joking. We all know you laundered money for the Biden admin. 4.8 thousand replies, 974 likes. And if we go into the retweets, 224 regular retweets versus 1,444 quote tweets. The social media director is getting fired. If anybody wants to hire a social media director who's desperate, I'm guessing Pfizer just fired somebody. And this was appropriately dragged too. LB, nothing says trust the science like you can't sue us if something goes wrong. 5 times August, Pfizer forced to pay a record $2.3 billion settlement for widespread drug fraud. Christina Pusha, hey Pfizer, is this guy a scientist? If not, why follow his orders on the science? The NPC, corrupt scientists help the tobacco industry. Corrupt scientists help the plastic industry. Corrupt scientists help the fossil fuel industry. No, of course, the government would never hire scientists to push the fake evidence. Scientists have too much integrity. And Pepe is out here, of course, wishing everybody a fine ratio on this eve. Here's some science that we're not supposed to trust, though. Are you ready? From ABC 15 out of Arizona, scientists say woman's immune system naturally cured her of HIV. From Scripps National. A woman from Argentina no longer has HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, according to scientists. A study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine said the woman is only the second documented person to be cured by her own immune system. The 30-year-old mother was first diagnosed with HIV in 2013, according to NBC News. I have a healthy family. I don't have to medicate. I live as though nothing has happened. This is already a privilege, the woman, who did not want to reveal her name, told NBC News. The co-authors of the study said the medical community needs to figure out why the woman's immune system cured her of the virus so that it can be replicated in other patients. Living with HIV is no longer uncommon. The CDC says HIV can be controlled with proper medical care. Don't trust that science, though. Go get your jab. From NBC, Dr. Fauci. Well, it's been a while since we've heard from Dr. Fauci on this show. Dr. Fauci says COVID cases are starting to climb in some areas of the U.S. because the vaccine mandate got shut the fuck down. From Robert Towie and Nate Ratner. COVID-19 cases are starting to climb again in select regions across the U.S. after stabilizing at a high level following the summer's Delta surge. White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Fauci said on Monday. Fauci's comments came just a day after the country reported a 7-day average of more than 82,000 new cases, up 11% from the week before, according to CNBC analysis of data from Johns Hopkins. Nationwide cases were down 57% last week from the Delta wave's peak at summer, but a jump in patients in the Midwest and Northeast is fueling the sudden increase. The only thing that's a little disconcerting is that we're beginning to plateau, Fauci said during an interview hosted by the Bipartisan Policy Center. In other words, the deceleration of cases is now plateaued, and in some areas of the country we're starting to see a bit of an uptick. Infections have been on the decline for weeks after hitting a Delta wave peak of 172,500 new cases per day on September 13th. They flattened out at a high level, bouncing between 70 and 75k new cases a day for nearly 3 weeks through most of last week, and they're now once again increasing. They can't medically force you to go get the vaccine anymore, so now they have to tell you why it's going to be so good. Average cases have jumped from 19% and 37% in the Midwest and Northeast over the last week, respectively. According to Johns Hopkins data, hospitalizations, which lag an increase in infections, are up 11% over the same period in the Midwest, while the number of currently hospitalized patients with COVID is flat in the Northeast. Cases and hospitalizations have fallen sharply in the South, where the Delta wave hit earliest and hardest over the summer. The cases are rising. You must get the jab. I promise that Pfizer's not paying me to say this, but you must hit it, and you must stay in your home. You can't go out for holidays anymore. More Fauci news. Coronavirus fully vaccinated families can feel good about gathering for the holidays, Fauci says. From Kelly Dugan, Cox Media Group National Content Desk. COVID-19 vaccinations are a key to safely enjoying the 2021 holidays, Dr. Anthony Fauci said during a Monday event hosted by the Bipartisan Policy Center. Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and President Biden's chief medical advisor, for God only knows what reason, said specifically that the fully vaccinated should feel comfortable gathering with other vaccinated family and friends in private settings this holiday season, The Hill reported. If you get vaccinated and your family's vaccinated, you can feel good about enjoying a typical Thanksgiving, Christmas with your family and close friends, he said. When you go to indoor congregate settings, go the extra mile. Be safe, wear a mask. But when you're with your family at home, goodness, enjoy it with your parents, your children, your grandparents. There's no reason not to do that, Fauci said. Oh good, we have permission from the patron saint of medicine, St. Anthony of Fauci. Although nearly 69% of Americans have received at least one dose of the pinko fucking pox jab. Another 28 million children ages 5 to 11 recently became eligible for the inoculations. Average daily pinko pox cases have increased about 23% since late October to 78,500. ABC News reported citing a U.S. CDC control and CDC data. According to The Hill, however, 60 million Americans aged 12 and older remain unvaccinated, complicating holiday plans. Not complicating my plans. And if you're not done listening to Fauci, which we're not, let's actually listen to him directly.
Well, one of the things that to me was most difficult to accept is that we put together a good plan for how we were going to try and dampen down the spread of infection early on, thinking that that was accepted by everybody, and then the next day, the president saying, free Michigan, free Virginia. I didn't quite understand what the purpose of that was, except to put this misplaced perception about people's individual right to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety. That, to me, is one of the things that I think went awry in all of this.
Did you ever raise that with President Trump?
You know, I didn't have the opportunity to raise it. I was sort of like shocked, and then I didn't speak to him for some time after that. But it was at that point that I realized that I would have to just get out there myself and say things that clearly were going to be contradictory. I'm not totally sure what the president was referring to, that it was much worse than we're saying it was, that it's not going to go away tomorrow. It's not going to disappear like magic.
Because, you know, this virus is...
Just the misplaced perception about people's individual rights to make a decision that supersedes the societal safety. Man, that is some fucking communist language right there. My God. They're not even trying to hide the fucking ball anymore. Alright, let's keep going. Oh, that dude followed me back. That's cool. Thank you, MAGA dude. Alright, let's keep going here. From the Blaze, Republicans demand answers on alleged race-based rationing of monoclonal antibody treatments. This is from Chris Pandolfo. Republican lawmakers are demanding answers from the Biden admin after a viral video purportedly showed a man being denied monoclonal antibodies for treatment for COVID-19 because of his race. In a letter to Health Secretary Javier Becerra, 14 Republicans, led by Chip Roy, asked the Department of Health and Human Services to clarify why the admin is rationing the supply of monoclonal antibody treatments. The letter is a follow-up to a previous inquiry from Roy asking HHS whether or not there was a current or expected shortage of any monoclonal antibody treatments in the U.S., a question Republicans said the Biden admin never answered. Despite HHS saying it is dedicated to transparency throughout this effort, multiple attempts from Congress to better understand HHS's role in regulating the MAB supply chain and distribution have gone unanswered, the lawmakers wrote on Tuesday. Now, we have heard instances of individuals being refused the MAB treatments, with a recent case regarding a man in Texas being refused treatment based on the color of his skin. Current emergency use authorization guidelines list criteria for high-risk individuals, including, for example, race or ethnicity, in considering who receives treatment, the letter states. Look, I'm not sure. I mean, well, let's watch this.
So I'm not gonna be able to get it today because I don't qualify.
Yep.
What if I like smoke and vape? I heard that was no. Okay. But if I were black and Hispanic, then I'd be able to qualify. Okay. I'm being denied medical service because of my race. Is that?
That's the criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I do, I go around and make sure everyone meets the criteria.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the criteria that was set forth. If you were 65, you'll be good. But nope, you're healthy. And you're healthy and no medical conditions. So research showed that you should be able to fight off COVID. Or maybe it's for someone else, may preclude them a little more, or make them a little more susceptible to being worse with COVID. Any questions?
No, I guess not.
All right, you with her?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm listening to this video here, and it's a bad attempt at sarcasm, I think. Really, honestly, it's either a nurse that's gone rogue or it's sarcasm. I would not put this on the feet of the federal government because, well, I don't think the government has that much capability to come back out and do this. I mean, if true, then holy shit, we need to come back and talk about this and have a conversation about it. But the guy kind of led her into this, and, you know, when I listened to her response, I got more of a, yeah, it's definitely because of your race. You know, kind of like, you know, a clap back of, are you trying to call me racist? I don't know if that was intent to be malicious. Specifically. But as far as I understand, the supply chain is wide enough that we shouldn't have to ration it back out either. As far as I can tell, I mean, I'm not going to take this stuff, so I have no idea. I have no horse in this race. It's just as completely proven as the vaccine. Honk honk. And it's the same thing with this. It's the same thing with Pfizer or but I don't even know who makes the monoclonal antibody treatment, to be completely honest. But it's still going to go back to a big pharma company. They're going to get fucking rich off of it. More monoclonal antibody news from 9 News. State launches effort to get monoclonal antibody treatment into assisted living facilities. From Luis de Leon. When staff at an assisted living facility in Arvada noticed that Margaret Noel's stepdad sounded congested, they brought him into his room and gave him a COVID test. It came back positive. But 79-year-old Cole Ray Jr., who got the Pfizer vaccine, assured his stepdaughter that he'd be okay. He's an avid reader, so he's just reading. He's got all his books, and he's fine, Noel said over the phone. He's just very matter-of-fact. Very, you know, I've had my shots, you know, I'll be fine. You know, don't worry about it. I'm feeling great. That optimism also extends from the fact that no more than a few hours after the phone interview, her stepdad would be getting monoclonal antibody treatment from the Bloom Healthcare. The type of treatment is part of the latest push from the state to keep the COVID patients out of the hospital. Patients need a referral from a doctor to get the treatment, but the state has set up mobile buses in places like Colorado Springs, Evans, Pueblo, Grand Junction, and Cortez. UC Health and National Jewish Health are also offering the treatment with referral along with the rest of the state's 161 providers. But there's also a push to get the treatment in nursing homes around the state. So, and that's the thing. I mean, one of the big comorbidities of this is age. Yes, they're going out and getting the shots to the elderly, which, I mean, that's a comorbidity, and that's the way that you feel is the best way to get... If you feel that's the best way to control your health, then absolutely, go out and get the shot. Or get the antibodies. I can't make that decision for you. You need to make that decision for yourself and for your family. But that would, I mean, if this is the best treatment that people think that they need, then that would be the first place I'd be putting it, is in the nursing home. Because that is one of the big comorbidities that can't be prevented. The beat goes on. Drums keep marching a rhythm to the grave. Time never stops. You can lose weight, you can live a healthier lifestyle, you can eat better, but you can't stop aging. So, good on them for that, I guess. From CNBC, Regeneron CEO says its monoclonal antibodies protect people from COVID for months. From Robert Towie. Oh, I bet you it protects them for longer than that. Regeneron's monoclonal antibodies grant months of protection from COVID-19 and can be administered to individuals whose immune systems aren't shielded enough by vaccines. CEO Len Schliefer told CNBC's Squawk Box on Monday. That's fair, Silentcaster. Yes, I did. Schliefer's comments came after Regeneron released data that indicated its one-dose antibody cocktail cut the risk of catching the virus by nearly 82% for 2 to 8 months. Regeneron's monoclonals have been administered intravenously to treat up to moderate COVID symptoms during the pandemic and lower the chances for hospitalization in high-risk patients, according to the Food and Drug Administration. If you want to help protect people on a population level, vaccines are the best way to go. They're cheap and you can make billions of doses, Schliefer said. Would still love to see the invoice that goes to the federal government on how much they're actually costing and how much can get kicked back over into Pfizer or otherwise, or kicked back into the hands of the DNC. Oops, that never happens. Trust us. But our data now indicates that antibodies are the key player in the sense that they are sufficient. You might not need the cellular immunity, it might add something, but antibodies are sufficient based on these data to protect you from getting the pinko fucking pox, he added. Individuals with immunocompromised conditions could eventually receive Regeneron's monoclonals up to every 5 or 6 months. And they would be protected just as though they were vaccinated, Schliefer said. He said the treatment could be administered selectively to those at high risk for COVID complications and essential workers with concerns over immunizing. Which makes no sense because you're still getting something intravenously put in your arm. But, okay, you do you. If it's an IV drip, then you're still getting it put into your bloodstream. Whether it comes from a needle into your muscle or a needle into your vein. What the fuck? But people aren't going to see that because Regeneron is going to be the savior of us all. Ron DeSantis said so. Oh, are you taking off, Quest? I'm sorry. I got a few more here left to go. Alright. But we are at 9 o'clock too, so we got to start rationing out and seeing what we want to do. This one I'm going to save because I want to do a little bit more depth into this one. So we'll save this one. We'll put this one at the end. Yeah. Let's power through these last 4, and then we'll save that Washington Post one for tomorrow. All right, from the Blaze, New York Governor Kathy Hochul signs bill to require utilities to use customers' preferred name and pronouns. From Elks Nitzberg. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has signed a bill that will require utility corporations, municipalities, waterworks corporations, and telephone service providers to utilize each customer's desired name and pronouns in communications, a move that comes as the left continues to press for societal acceptance and accommodation of radical gender ideologies. Legislation S. 5325A 6193 gives utility customers the right to be addressed and acknowledged by their preferred name and pronouns by requiring utility corporations, municipalities, waterworks, and telephone service providers to allow customers to use their preferred name and pronouns, according to a press release. Nearly 80,000 New Yorkers identify as transgender. This is Trans Awareness Week, and I'm proud to sign the Affirming Gender Identity into Utilities Act, a common sense legislation that gives New Yorkers the right to be addressed and acknowledged by their chosen names and correct pronouns, Hochul tweeted. This is what we're spending our time and money on. You have a nursing shortage that you yourself have caused, Kathy Hochul. Your state is still wrought by the fact that your former governor, the person you replaced, by the way, is a diddler, maybe not a kitty diddler, but definitely a woman diddler, up to and above and beyond anything we've seen in quite a while, since Clinton at least. And people continue to flee your state left and right. And this is what you think is going to fix everything? Jeez. Alright, from the Daily Mail. Would you buy a political correctness police bot? Trigger warning device for classrooms and parties sounds alarm and it detects offensive language or jokes. From Shay Quinn for Mail Online. A new trigger warning detector, which sounds alarms when it detects offensive speech, has been unveiled at Dubai Design Week. The Themis is a lamp-sized device intended to moderate debate in classrooms and universities and manifest political correctness into a product. The small device could even be used to police language at dinner parties and family gatherings, and its developers have said it hopes that Themis will encourage self-critique. Zina Issa, who unveiled the device in Dubai, told The Telegraph, "Through the use of speech recognition and sounds, we were able to program the Themis to detect offensive terms, racial slurs, offensive jokes through the microphone." Extremely bothersome alarms last approximately 2 minutes, after which Themis turns off, allowing an open, understanding discussion among people on the possible trigger matter and the potential reasons behind Themis's activation. The device is named for Themis, the Greek goddess of justice and social order. Themis is being currently trialed in classrooms and universities with a view to wider rollout soon. The design were unveiled at the Global Grad Show, where students from across the Middle East and North Africa were invited to share their work. The show, which takes place annually at the Dubai Design Week Festival, was moved online this year due to the pandemic. The graduate portion of the festival concluded yesterday. Okay, I see this coming to the US. I definitely see this coming to the US. And I see a lot of people, like you, the smartest audience in live streaming, trying to get the high score. Because I would. If I saw that somebody had one of these things, I would be trying to get the high score. Not that anybody in my family would use this, and I mean, even with my family, I would be up against some stiff competition. You know what this reminds me of? I've only ever seen half of Demolition Man. I've never seen the end part of it, because I saw it in a study hall. I was in an independent study hall in high school, and one of the guys that was in there was watching the movie, and I caught the first half of it. Then I had to go to another class and never caught the end of it. But this reminds me of the fact that they had the speech recognition thing on every wall that gave you demerit if you said the F word or something. That's what this reminds me of. Alright, from the New York Post. Cold weather can cause winter vagina and is bad news for your sex life. From Lizzie Perry of The Sun. Winter is coming, and with a chilling warning. It turns out winter vagina could be a thing, according to one expert. We all know that as the temperature drops and your heating gets switched on, that it can play havoc on your skin. Dry skin and chapped lips become more of a problem, leaving us reaching for hand cream and lip balm. But could all that drought affect all parts of the body, including, yep, you guessed it, your private parts? Mary Burke, former National Health Service midwife in the UK and senior clinical... How many women in liberal politics are named Mary Burke, by the way? Because that was also the Trek CEO that ran for governor in Wisconsin in the recall election. Mary Burke. I know, because I was actually surprised to hear that name again, because I also have... Well, I'm not going to say who this person is to me, but I also know somebody else in my private life whose name is Mary Burke. A former National Health Services midwife in the UK and senior clinical nurse at the London Bridge Plastic Surgery and Aesthetic Clinic told The Sun that many women may well suffer more with vaginal dryness during the winter months. Dry autumn and winter air depletes moisture from our bodies, leaving our skin dehydrated, cracked, and our sinuses parched, she said. And while it's an issue few will want to discuss openly, our vaginas can enter drought mode during this time too. When we spend a lot of time in air-conditioned rooms or with the heating on, we're living in air which requires very little moisture, and the dryness we experience can often extend to every inch of our bodies, including most of our private regions. But other experts disagree. Dr. Jen Gunther, who probably gets laid throughout the entire winter and doesn't have to worry about this, has denied ideas that weather changes can affect a lady's private parts, debunking the idea that summer vaginas are a thing. No, that actually is a thing, but it has nothing to do with the moisture. She said that vaginal dryness has nothing to do with temperature outside, rather it's caused by low estrogen levels, some medications, and thrush. Vaginas function quite well in all seasons, Gunther said. Well, yeah. Anyway, I got one more, and we talked about this on the RedNet show. Once again, thank you to Katie Zed for sitting in this past week. This was Surprise Stupidity, but I wanted to go over it just a little bit more on Contemporary, because I see some names in Contemporary that I didn't see on Monday night's show. N-word. Threat found in porta potty at Facebook construction site. All 1,300 workers sent home. $50,000 reward offered to find culprit. This is from The Blaze, from Dave Urbanski. After the N-word and a threat were found scrawled inside a porta potty at a Facebook data center construction site in Utah, all 1,300 workers were sent home and a $50,000 reward was offered to identify the guilty party, KUTV reported. What are the details? The message on the door, facing inside the porta potty in Eagle Mountain, reads, Killa N-word Day 11/29, the station said. Upon discovery of the slur and the threat, Mortensen Construction told its 1,300 construction workers about the graffiti and elected to send them home last Monday as a precautionary measure, authorities told KUTV. Meta, formerly Facebook, has a zero-tolerance policy for any racist acts, a Facebook spokesperson said in regard to the graffiti, according to the station. While this is a challenge facing the entire industry, we're working with our general contractors to implement measures that will help prevent them at any of our construction sites. The Eagle Mountain Data Center is one of 17 such Facebook facilities worldwide, KSTU-TV reported. The threat isn't directed at a specific person, and there's no credible evidence the threat will be acted upon, KUTV said, citing authorities. In addition, since the construction site is a secure area, authorities told the station the vandalism may be an inside job. Ooh, vandalism in a porta potty is an inside job. Now, this was presumably, and Katie Zed pointed this out correctly, this was done in permanent marker. This was done in Sharpie, which is a far, far cry from most of the porta potties that we see, with phone numbers, with giant dicks, with N-words, with swastikas, all around the country, everywhere else you can go and find, which are usually carved in with a small knife. Somebody put the N-word in a porta potty. Welcome to Small Town America, 1995, you dipshit. Hell, I was in a bathroom in Massachusetts. Not a porta potty, but an actual bathroom. Public facing. This was when Call of Duty was starting to get big, because that was like 07 when I lived out there. And inside the bathroom stall, somebody had carved in with a knife, Cock of Duty, Modern Warfare. This is not a new thing. But, well, apparently, this is the thing that freaks a lot of people out on Facebook. Tell me you live a sheltered life without telling me you live a sheltered life, Facebook. I'm telling you right now, jeez. All right. Well, now that that's over, today is Wednesday, so today is the day that I do something that I am thankful for. And I mean, there's always a lot to be thankful for, and more stuff that I should be thankful for as we go. I mean, I can simply be thankful for the fact that my jury duty got pushed back, and I have another week to find a way to get out of it. Which I think the gas and flag mask is going to be there, because hey, you got to wear a mask at the courthouse, so. That'll be one way for me to get back out of this, I'm pretty sure, off of this. I had a really good idea this morning, and I didn't even think to jot it down either. I mean, one of the things that I can be thankful for is, I look into this. I look into what's happening with Rittenhouse, and I look into what's happening with the budget bill, and I mean, it does look like there's a lot of bad stuff coming here. I mean, they're going to come back and they're going to inflate the currency even more, and our wages are not keeping up. I can tell you that. So there's a lot to be blackpilled about with all of this here. There's a lot of stuff that we can look at and see off of this. But, you know, they keep, like Fauci, we talked about that earlier. Oh, well, if you got your vaccine, you can gather with your vaccinated family members, and you can all go back and you can celebrate together. But I live in a region of the country, and I live in a world where that's not an issue. In small town America, that's not the kind of thing. I mean, family in my area doesn't just turn you away because you don't have the same political belief. Whether it be for the stupid mask, for the vaccine. And people are starting to wake up to this too. I mean, just look at what we just saw with Joy Reid. Oh, people are ungrateful. The low approval ratings, they're ungrateful. Those ungrateful bastards, they must have spent all their money already. Look at these ungrateful fucking rubes. This kind of thing. Which means that the culture war is being won. That's what I'm most thankful for. I told you in the beginning, with the Biden presidency, don't come back out. Don't threaten attacks. Don't do anything else like that. This presidency needs to be memed into oblivion, and we're doing that. We're doing that very well, in fact. Every time he says something stupid, there's always a new meme off of here. Or when the mainstream news tries to cover up for him, there's a new meme out there. And it's all coming up at the grassroots. We could see an end to this. And yes, the right wing will turn around and get even worse, because the swing is going to be back that way, and we can meme them out of existence too. So there's a lot to be thankful for right now. I can't just pin my finger on one thing, but definitely a lot to be thankful for. And guys, go enjoy your families as you come up here for Thanksgiving week. Go enjoy all of that. I know that my work is giving us a turkey here, but well, I didn't think I was going to be traveling, so I guess we'll figure out what happens from there. And we will see you next time. Well, let's change the music up first. All right, so thanks everybody who came by and chatted in the live chat here, who listened to me talk about what I'm thankful for, who listened to me complain about the fact that somebody scrawled a racial slur in a porta potty, and listened to the talks about Rittenhouse. We will see, we'll likely get a verdict yet today here, so we'll see what happens with that, and I guess if there's going to be breaking news, we'll break it in the morning on whether or not there's a protest or somebody else got shot during one of the protests as well. So, well, stay tuned and we'll see what happens here. This will be coming up pretty soon. And we will see you next time over here on Contemporary. Until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.